may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, this happens literally every single offseason. So OTAs have started, so we've been getting some reports out of camp, and oh my God, a lot of them are laughable. I'm getting some questions over there in our Discord chat. Mason, what do you think of this? And people are sending links, and I'm going, okay, you're just wasting your time. You might as well have sent me a link to a clip of The Bachelorette or something and asked me my opinion on it, because it doesn't matter. So I want to go through and look at the major headlines that we have had come out over the past couple weeks and try to point out what I think is legit, what I think that we can completely overlook, and explain my thought process behind it. That way, when we have news that comes out later on, at least, I mean, I could be wrong, but at least y'all understand what I'm looking for and what I think actually matters versus what is just complete buzz and just they're trying to get clicks. They're trying to get people talking about it. But of course, go down there, drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. If we can get this video to 300 likes on the first day it's uploaded, that would be absolutely massive. I see that this channel continues to grow for all the support that y'all have by leaving comments, by dropping likes, by subscribing to the channel. And more importantly, if I say something here that y'all don't agree with, or if I say something in any video you don't agree with, do not hesitate to leave a comment telling me that I'm stupid, but more importantly, what I am missing and why I am wrong. I do go down to that comment section and I read as many as I can. Now, please don't just tell me I am stupid. Let me know why. But a lot of times I think that y'all make some great points that really point out things that I did not even consider. But let's get to it. Let's bring up our first piece of news, and this one is just a complete puff piece in my opinion. So Tyler Boyd has come out and he has said that Joe Burrow has increased his arm strength. Okay, that is just really funny. I mean, why would this be relevant at all? Why is this making headlines? Because what is Tyler Boyd supposed to say? Is Tyler Boyd supposed to go to the media and go, yeah, Joe Burrow looking healthy again. He's throwing balls. He threw that 40-yard pass to me. But I really want y'all to focus in on how the ball has slowed down. Do y'all see that Joe Burrow really just doesn't have the same kind of arm strength that he had before the injury? Is that what Tyler Boyd is supposed to say? I don't understand what the expectation here is. Obviously, this is what you expect a wide receiver to say when the franchise quarterback comes back and he is healthy. Now, the reports saying that Joe Burrow is 100% going to be ready for training camp and he's 100% going to be ready for week 1. Now, that's significant. That is something you can focus in on. But the fact that somehow we're getting a headline that Joe Burrow has increased his arm strength from last season, I don't know what to say. This is completely pointless. This is not a story at all. Please, if you hear anything like this, if it's not talking about usage, if it's just talking about so-and-so has gotten better, so-and-so has improved, that's nothing. That is nothing I want to focus in on. That is maybe going to cause a player to increase in his ADP. And that's what you want to be paying attention to this news for. I mean, say you have Joe Burrow on a team that you've already drafted, that's a redraft team, or maybe you have him on a dynasty team, and all of a sudden he's getting some buzz and a lot of people are going, hey, Joe Burrow is a top 5 quarterback all of a sudden. At that point, maybe you look to sell, because these headlines don't really matter. It's nice that he's healthy, but don't be focusing in on an increase in arm strength, if anything. Now, something along these same exact lines came out of Pittsburgh where Ben Roethlisberger says Najee Harris is going to be something to see. Now, same thing here. What is the franchise quarterback supposed to say about the new first round of drafted running back? Is he supposed to come out and he's supposed to go, you know what? Yeah, Najee Harris, he's all fine and all. I mean, Benny Snell was already here. We really could have gone with Benny Snell. Pittsburgh, we should have taken an offensive lineman in the first round. Is that what y'all are expecting Ben Roethlisberger to say? No, this is a non-story. This is literally no news at all. Just like I said with the last thing. If you just hear one player hyping up another guy, nothing. Ignore it. Look over it. I'm not going to talk about this anymore. Let's move on to something that actually matters. And this is what I want to focus in on. Let's talk about some usage here. Now, we got a report from ESPN saying Washington expects Antonio Gibson to be running more passing routes in 2021. Now, of course, this isn't going to drastically change your projections for Antonio Gibson, but this is something that actually matters. Now, can we look at the difference between these three quotes that we have had so far? Okay, so first one, Tyler Boyd says Joe Burrow has increased his arm strength. Just completely opinionated, doesn't have anything to do with usage. Ben Roethlisberger says Najee Harris is going to be something to see. Like I said, nothing to do with usage, nothing to do at all. But here, ESPN reports Antonio Gibson running more passing routes. Now, this is exactly what you wanted to see from Antonio Gibson. We actually talk about this in a video that we released earlier this week, where we were saying, hey, Antonio Gibson coming out of college was a wide receiver. He transitioned over to being a running back. We were all in on Antonio Gibson last year. We're going to be all in on Antonio Gibson this year again, because why we liked him last year is we were going through and looking at every running back box that you want to see from a rookie running back, and that he has the size, he has the athleticism. I mean, this is someone with Saquon Barkley type athleticism. He also gets the NFL team investment by going in the third round of last year's draft. And we knew that he was a great receiving player just because he got done playing the wide receiver position. Now, what everybody else had questions with, and something I don't want to focus in on the running back position, because we know the running back position on the football field is literally the position that relies least on skill compared to athleticism. But everybody was going, oh, can Antonio Gibson run between the tackles? Can he see a hole and hit it? Yes, he proved that his rookie season. What he did not do his rookie season is he was not running routes out of the backfield. He was not laying on passing downs because his pass protection. So now we are getting reports saying that Antonio Gibson is going to be getting that third down usage, which we know he does have the talent to catch the ball out of the backfield. This is what matters. This is something that should be changing your mind on a player slightly. Of course, you're not changing everything about it, but here when we start talking about usage on how these players are actually going to fit into their respective offenses, this is what we need to be paying attention to. Now, along these same lines, let's go over to Philadelphia with another player we've talked about lately, with Jalen Reagor. So a report came out saying Jalen Reagor is going to be playing in the slot a lot in 2021. Now, there are a few things here. I will say Jalen Reagor coming out of TCU was not someone I was expecting to be a primarily slot wide receiver, just because you looked at him and you looked at him having the athleticism to being more so a field stretching option. But here they just have a completely different wide receiver room going into 2021 now that they add the Alpha X wide receiver in Devonta Smith. So now that they have Devonta Smith coming in and you have Jalen Reagor, you really don't know which way he's going to go. You don't know if he's going to be playing primarily a field stretching role where they're using his speed to take the top off the defense, or you didn't know if they were going to possibly be moving him into the slot where you would expect him to be able to get more targets. So this is what I want to point out. This is talking about his usage. This is talking about something that is actually actionable in 2021. It's not as sexy as Jalen Hurts coming out and going, hey, Jalen Reagor is a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL. He is going to blow up in 2021. Because if Jalen Hurts said that, really, it doesn't mean anything. We don't really have any differing opinions on it. But no, here, Jalen Reagor going to play the slot this upcoming season. Obviously, you're not changing everything with your Philadelphia Eagles projections because of this, but it is something to take into consideration. Now, let's go back to something that doesn't really matter at all with the player that I really like, TJ Hockenson. Here, the tight end coach comes out and says, hey, the sky's the limit for TJ Hockenson going into year 3. And I'm not sitting here saying I don't agree with this. TJ Hockenson is going to be a player that I'm significantly higher on than most people, whether or not it's a redraft, dynasty. I love targeting these tight ends once they get past the few first years in the NFL, because we know with these tight ends, it's by far and away, outside of quarterback, the hardest position to develop in the NFL, and it takes the longest. You're never expecting a rookie. You're never expecting a sophomore year tight end to come in and be a fantasy football league winner. But with TJ Hockenson, he had those first 2 years to develop. Now, going into year 3, he's playing on an offense where there are so many targets available. So I'm a massive TJ Hockenson fan this season. I think that TJ Hockenson does have the potential to jump up and be a Travis Kelce type player, to be a league winning tight end. But I mean, it kind of sucks to see players that you really like getting buzz for no apparent reason. And maybe it's going to impact their fantasy value, Because here, all of a sudden, you get the report, sky's the limit for TJ Hockenson. Well, thanks, bud. We all kind of already knew that. Why are you just verbalizing that to kind of change his ADP here? Just very, very, very annoying. So we talked before about what we are looking for in regards to players and their usage reports on how Antonio Gibson going to be running more routes, and with Jalen Reagor playing in the slot. What you also want to focus in on, injury updates. So we do have an update coming out from Denver saying Courtland Sutton is going to be 100% ready for the beginning of training camp. Now, this is something you wanted to see. This is something we expected, given the fact that Courtland Sutton did tear his ACL so early on in the season. But here, you love to see it. Courtland Sutton going to be ready for camp. Now, Courtland Sutton, I will say that I think for fantasy, he may be being a little overvalued at the current moment, given the fact that, yes, he is a great talent. Yes, Courtland Sutton, if he was in a neutral situation, would be one of the better wide receivers for fantasy. But the problem is he is just in a spot where it's going to be so hard to succeed for really any wide receiver. I mean, playing in Denver, obviously you have, if not the worst, one of the worst quarterback situations in the entire NFL. Now throw on the fact that the wide receivers playing alongside you, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, and you also have Noah Fant, who's pretty much just a receiving tight end. So the targets are going to be hard to come by. The efficiency is also going to be very hard to come by, given the fact that the quarterback play is going to be so poor in Denver. But Courtland Sutton, this is news you want to see. You want to see that he's going to be ready for camp. There are going to be other players you're looking for recent updates with. A guy like Saquon Barkley, really just anybody that dealt with injuries. I also saw a report coming out that says Paris Campbell 100% healthy. Those reports are nice to see. Those reports, you read them, you look into them, and they can actually give you a piece of news that you can have an impact with your fantasy strategy. But I mean, just to go through and say player X is going to tear it up this year, that really shouldn't change your mind on a player at all. Now, lastly, let's talk about Joe Mixon. And this is just really funny because I want to compare Joe Mixon and Travis Etienne. Okay, so a report came out earlier today saying Joe Mixon was lining up at wide receiver for some practices in Cincinnati. And I really did not hear anything about this. I mean, this was not a major story that got circulated around our Discord chat. This was not something that people were sending to me on Patreon asking my opinion for it. But if you compare it to the same exact report about Travis Etienne, I mean, it's just a completely different story where we get the report that Travis Etienne is lining up at some wide receiver and the entire fantasy football community has a shutdown. They're all going, oh my God, Travis Etienne, is he going to be a wide receiver? Is James Robinson going to be someone that is still a starting running back in fantasy? Well, I just want to be pointing out that these beat stories, these reports that you're going to get over the next summer, I mean, please be wary on how people are reporting on them, because the same piece of news, like Joe Mixon lining up at wide receiver versus Travis Etienne lining up at wide receiver, is going to get different traction given the fact, say there's a fantasy analyst that really likes James Robinson. What do you think they're going to be doing on their podcast? If they really like James Robinson and they want to go, I need people to agree with me on James Robinson. I need people to think that he's a value as well. What they're going to be doing is they're going to be coming on going, hey, Travis Etienne lining up at wide receiver, Travis Etienne, Travis Etienne, Travis Etienne, just pumping out that story as if it's some breaking news. And in reality, it's not a big deal. Versus those same people, hey, when Joe Mixon is lining up at some wide receiver, it's just going to be crickets. You're not going to hear anything. So I just want to bring up this last story as an example of why you should be wary when you are hearing people just cover the reports that we are having coming out of these OTAs, and it's going to get really bad in training camp. But please, guys, let me know what y'all are thinking. Let me know if y'all think that I am just completely wrong with anything I said in this video, because I am wrong all the time. And that's it. Drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see y'all with the video tomorrow. I really owe a massive thank you for all the Patreon supporters in Ben, Braden, Zach, Ryan, William, Derek, Justin, Marshall, Tyler, and Eamon. Thank you so much, guys.